What's going on, guys? The Army Trucker here. So today I want to discuss the VA claims process. I want to give a broad overview of the process as well as some pointers, maybe some tips and tricks along the way and what to expect. Alright, so getting right into it. First and foremost, if you think you're going to file a claim, I want you to file an intent to file a claim form. You can do that on eBenefits. Alright, you can go to file a claim, and it's going to ask you all the prerequisite information, your name, your address, dates of service, etc., and you're going to submit that. All right, you're going to submit that first part of that, and that locks in your back pay date. So more or less, whenever you do get your claim actually officially inputted, you'll have back pay until the date that you originally filed your intent to file a claim form. That way you're getting paid for building your claim, for building your case. Alright, next what I want you to do is to research what you're going to file for. You can find all the information for what you're going to file for under Chapter 38 of the Code of Federal Regulation Part 4, and that's Schedule for Rating Disabilities. That gives you all the breakdowns. So if I'm going to file for PTSD, I'm going to look up Chapter 38, Code of Federal Regulations, Part 4, PTSD, and that'll be under mental health. And I can, with a quick Google search, look up what all the scheduling ratings are for each section of that disability, from 0%, 10%, 30%, 50%, 70%, and 100%. And I'll know where I fit, and I'll know what criteria that I most meet, and you know in your heart of hearts where you should fall. You don't have to meet every criteria under a particular percentage that you think you fall under, but you should meet most of them. And the ones that you meet most of, that's a category you'll fall in, and you'll know later on down the road when you do your CMP exam, and moreover your DBQ at that CMP exam, you know what questions they're going to ask, and what answers correspond with your rating percentage, so you're not caught off guard. Alright, so let's go a little bit more into it. Later on we're going to have a CMP exam. What is that? That's a compensation and pen exam. A CMP exam is compensation and pension exam. During that exam they're going to cover what's called a DBQ. That's Disability Benefits Questionnaire. Alright, they're going to go over it verbatim, question for question. You can look up, again, referencing PTSD, there's a DBQ for PTSD. Alright, you're going to go sit before a doctor that's paid for by the VA during your CMP exam, and he or she is going to go over that DBQ. Alright, and they should go over it verbatim. You can read over the DBQ as well. That way you know exactly what questions you're going to be asked. And again, with all this information and part of our research phase, we should be able to realize exactly what questions they're going to ask during the CMP exam, what our answers are going to be beforehand. That way we're not caught off guard, along with what our rating percentage that we're going for is and what the questions pertain therein. Alright, so from there we're going to start building our claim after we've done our research. We're going to do a statement in support of claim. Alright, that's basically just a statement of you saying what your disability is. You can keep it short and sweet. I have PTSD because of my Iraq combat tour in 2009. Alright, it could be as simple as that. I'd recommend going into a bit more detail. If you have any combat service awards, etc., you can put those in there, just the specifics of why you have PTSD and the situations that happened for that. And this is really covered for everything, but I'm using PTSD as an example. Also, any people that witnessed that event, whether it's you being injured or a particular traumatic event for PTSD, again, using that as an example, anybody that was there, you want to get statements from your buddies that were there. Alright, you want to get a statement from your spouse who's seen all the issues after the fact. Again, let's say with PTSD, they've seen how you act now. So you want to get that spouse. If you're having issues at work, you want to get a statement from your boss or your prior employer, if you're having a hard time holding down a job or you've been fired, you're having anger issues that's dealing with your PTSD, you need to be able to put that into writing from your employer, as well as maybe a few peers. The more supporting evidence you have in support of your claim, the better. But definitely recommend at the very least for you, yourself, and your significant other or your former significant other to put in a statement in support of claim. All right, from there, where I would go is I would go to a VSO. I want to say, hey, Mr. VSO, I want to file a claim for PTSD, again, using that as an example. So far, I have my statements, and I've done the intent to file a claim form to lock in my back pay date. So this is what I have, and that person should be able, with that and a few other things, like if you're, this is your initial filing, you're filing for the first time, like a copy of your DD-214, and those statements should be all that they need. They'll tell you if they need anything else. They'll do a release of information for your medical records. They'll tell you to bring any documentation you have in from a private doctor, and they'll fill in all the VA form paperwork that has to be done for you to file a claim. They'll fill out the easy form there, From there, so we filed our claim. We have all our supporting documentation and our statements. From there, you're going to get a letter from the VA. They're going to tell you when you have your CMP exam. Again, the comp and pen exam, where they're going to go over that DBQ, which we've already prepared for. We know what questions they're going to ask. We know what rating we fit into and what the answers are going to be for that. Again, we're not going to embellish our symptoms, but we're not going to downplay our symptoms either. You got to be truthful at these CMP exams. That's a big thing, to be truthful, especially if you're dealing, again, I'm using PTSD as an example, especially if you're dealing with a psych doc. All right, a psych doc's not going to know when you're bullshitting 9 times out of 10. Their job is to read people. This kind of the same with medical doctors. They see all types of people. They're more or less got to be a people person to do that type of job, But they're going to know if you're bullshitting, so don't bullshit these people. Don't embellish the issues that you're having, but tell them the truth. Tell them, if you're fucking having a hard time sleeping, tell them you're having a hard time sleeping. If you're fucking have a bunch of anger issues and you want to kill people, you feel suicidal, homicidal, tell them the fucking truth. Don't be ashamed of that. A lot of people are concerned of getting, again, especially with PTSD, because this is what I dealt with, are being concerned with being put into an inpatient clinic. That was my fear before I filed and trying to get treatment with the VA. They more or less told me that I was going to go to an inpatient place, and that more or less they were going to force me to do that. Well, looking back on it, I never told them that I didn't have the intent to commit suicide or the intent to commit homicide. And if you don't have the intent to commit those things, they can't involuntarily put you into an inpatient care program. So just kind of be mindful of that. Be truthful, but not so far as you're telling them you're having the intent. Unless you do. Now, if you're currently suicidal or you're currently homicidal and you're trying to get help from that, sure, tell them that you have the intent to do so and get the help you need. I'm not saying don't get the help, but if it's something that you're concerned with and you don't have the intent to do so, even though you're having those thoughts, even though you're having those whims, they're not just going to involuntarily put you in an inpatient care program. So that goes back to telling the truth. Be honest. From there, after we filed our CMP exam, you're going to keep track of everything on e-benefits after that CMP exam, and it's going to tell you when your suspected date of claim completion is going to be, and if it gets knocked back into needing more evidence and they need more paperwork from you, they'll tell you on e-benefits. So that's where and why you want to keep track of your claim. All right. After your claim's done with, you're going to get a rating decision. All right. You're going to get a letter in the mail after everything's said and done telling you have X percentage, and this is why. They're going to give you a reason as to why. And they're going to tell you what it takes to reach the next level of percentage. So if you get 70% rating for PTSD, they're going to tell you what classification you met for 70%, which you should already know because it's taken verbatim from Chapter 38 of the Code of Federal Regulations. All right. So we've gotten our rating decision. We know why we got our rating decision and what's in it. All right. What happens if you don't get the decision you think you deserve? All right. That's when you go to file an appeal. There are 3 types of appeals. There's a supplemental claim, a senior reviewer, and a veterans law judge or the veteran board, the Board of Veteran Appeals. You'll send it up to them. All right. These are your 3 different types currently. After February 2019, these are now the 3 types of appeals you can do. All right. I would always recommend never to do the senior reviewer. Because you cannot add evidence to that. It's simply going to get pushed to another adjudicator, and they're probably going to come up with the same decision that you've already received. All right. So I would say that's a no-go. If you have to appeal, don't do the senior reviewer. Always do a supplemental claim and add evidence where they need it. So me, for instance, I did a claim for PTSD. I had a horrible CMP exam. The doc didn't go over the right thing. I'm appealing on the base that my CMP exam was done incorrectly by the doctor who administered it, okay, which was paid for by the VA through a private doctor. All right, so with my supplemental claim, I provided a DBQ from a private doctor as well as another statement stating why I'm appealing in a supplemental claim, and of course I went in a little bit more detail about the CMP exam that was botched by that particular doctor. So the supplemental claim right now takes 4 to 5 months completion time by the VA. That's taken off their website as of May 15, 2019. The senior reviewer, same thing, 4 to 5 months. Again, there's nothing. No reason you should use the senior reviewer as opposed to the supplemental claim. All right, and then your highest level, you have the veteran law judge you can use. That takes about a year. It takes longer if you add evidence or request a hearing, which is something you can do. So with that, if you decide you want to use the veteran law judge, you can add evidence, but understand that it's going to take longer. You can also request a hearing. That means you're going to have to go to D.C. and be at your hearing if you request a hearing. You don't have to be at it, but I would recommend if you're getting to that point, it's getting that serious, and you're going to request a hearing as opposed to a supplemental claim, and you have a jammed up case, that you probably should go to that hearing, although you don't have to. And I haven't done that yet. I'm not speaking from experience, but that's the highest level of appeal. Also, you can do the appeal through the VSO, or after you get that initial denial and you want to appeal your claim, you can get a lawyer. Understand that lawyer is going to probably get a significant chunk of that back pay if they win your case, and they're only going to take your case, they're only going to take your case if they can win it for the most part. They're not going to put their necks on the line and put hours into a case that they're not going to win, more or less. But having, 50% or 30% of your back pay is better than having 0% of your back pay if you do an appeal through a VSO as opposed to doing it to a lawyer. It's just me. I can't give legal advice. I can just tell you what I would do. I would always do, if I had to appeal, I would always do a supplemental claim, and I would do it to begin with through a VSO. If I don't like that appeal process, then I would take it up to the veteran law judge and flirt with getting a lawyer if I had to, meaning that something had gone so far awry that I needed a lawyer at that point. But again, that's going to push you out a year, so I would say not to go to that immediately. So again, I'm just going to go over everything quick, short, to the point. File your intent to file a claim form to lock in that back pay date. Do your research. Chapter 38, Code of Federal Regulations, Part 4 for the schedule for rating disabilities. We're also going to research DBQ and CAP exams and know exactly what DBQ correlates with whatever we're filing for, because there are many different DBQs. A quick Google search will put you in the right direction. All right, from there we're going to do our our statements and claim of support, or in support of claim, can't talk, no sleep. And we're going to have, at the very least, our spouse fill out one, but hopefully we're going to have our buddies that witness the event fill it out, as well as our employer and any peers that we have at work that we're having issues with that would be more than happy to write a claim for us. Then we're going to go to a VSO to help us make sure we don't miss any paperwork that needs to be filled out. From there, after we get everything submitted, we'll have a CMP exam, which we're already prepared for because we already researched everything. All right, CMP exam's over. We get our rating decision. All right, we're going to make sure our rating decision is what we want. We're also going to, when we get that decision in the mail, we're going to read that appeal, or not that appeal, excuse me. We're going to read that decision letter to fruition. There's a lot of good information in there. Even if you get the rating that you're looking for, understand that from that date on that paper, the date that you get your rating, every 5 years they're going to review it. So every 5 years you're going to have to go back to another CMP exam and do this process all over again. So be mindful of that. If you read your letter, it's in there. If you also read your letter, there may be options for health insurance or life insurance and some other things that may be beneficial to you and yours. So read your letter to fruition. Read it all the way through. All right, so if we have to appeal, we know there's 3 different types of appeals. The supplemental claim that we should always use as opposed to the senior reviewer appeal. And then there's also the veteran law judge. Okay, that's the Army Trucker. I tried to keep this as short as I can. If you have any questions, ask them below, or feel free to email me at thearmytrucker@gmail.com. I'm out.